For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors for me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of a review video on a kind of a new awning from Dometic. So with me here today I've got the Dometic Grande Air Tour 390. So I suppose new, it's more of kind of an updated model for the new season. So what we've got essentially is the name we've kind of known and loved, i.e. the Grande, which refers to sort of the size and style, in a 390 width, so 3.9 meters wide and an S height. So it's something we've seen before in kind of Dometic's old Pro collection. It moves into this new Tour, and Tour basically stands for this new Tour fabric they're running with. It's a little bit different, so it's still sort of the same kind of 300D material. Difference being actually it's now got ripstop running throughout it, so it's a much stronger fabric than previously it was. Still got kind of a nice kind of, doesn't feel too synthetic even though it is a polyester material. But more importantly, actually what Dometic have really done is factored in one of the kind of, arguably I think probably was one of their biggest criticisms in the past is about fading. So what we've got is a new kind of colour scheme, but more importantly the way the material's dyed is a lot different. So what we find actually now is we go into what we call a dope dyeing technique. It's when you kind of actually sort of dye the yarn before it's basically spun and woven into the actual material itself. Now the reason this is important is because we use the kind of analogy difference between, say, a carrot and a radish. When you cut them in half, your carrot has a colour all the way through, and the radish has colour on the outside and the white on the centre. Now, the old Pro fabric is done in the kind of radish method, but here we've got a carrot. So what joys means is when you have its an awning open to UV light and sunlight, as we're going to happen, the UV starts stripping outer coating away. So that's when you get the core coming through. So that's why after a period of time, probably Dometic's awnings did look a little bit more tired and faded. So certainly we'll get around that. Immediately, I think part of having a bit more of a duller down grey colour scheme as well is going to help a bit. But the main kind of core principles there, it works really quite nicely. The Grande is almost like kind of a slightly more modern design. So we've got the kind of this pitched roof coming through. We've got a dual pitch roof in the roof section as well to help internal height, but also water to drain off as it should do. So what you find is the middle beam is a little bit bigger, so the water shreds off to the side and then directly forward. 390 width, so two nice big panels as well. Inflatable, so it's very quick and easy to pitch. You can see from our own pitching and packing video that I did on this, it took me the best part of sort of 15-16 minutes. Admittedly, it's more time because you actually feed, the panels come in a separate bag now, whereas they didn't previously. So the joys this means that you would put the main body through, helps to reduce the overall bulk of the weight. Bulk of the actual item. So when you're feeding it through, you just feed basically the roof and then the air tube itself. You can feed it in, pump it up from a single inflation point, then zip the panels in. So it's a lot less sort of weight loaded, which makes the life a lot easier. And again, means that you have a bigger bag, which with less in it to pack everything away, which is quite well. So even though we've got a single inflation point, we have got 3 deflation points over the bottom of every single beam. We've got a point where the air can come out, so it's easy to pack up as well as pitch. Webbing straps located on the front obviously help to give you a great sort of tension, and it sort of fixes the bottom. So by pegging the base, it pulls the base. Pegging this point here, it pulls the base out, and you can then tension it with a guide point here as well. We've all got additional storm straps you can buy additionally to go for width. I would highly recommend those just to give it a bit more bounce and braces. We're running up to a 7 psi, so it's quite it's not a massively high system. Most tents, for example, but still gives you that nice option. Beautiful big crystal clear windows, and we've got sort of traditional style caravan curtains, well, more homely curtains than caravan curtains to get that element where you want to. But the main point difference between this and something like the Rally, for example, which is a very similar design, is the fact this actually is 3 meters deep. So you've got an extra bit of depth, means you're a bit further away from the caravan, and we'll certainly see that extra depth later on in the video when we do eventually go inside. As previously mentioned, all the panels are completely removable, so that means it's, like I said, lighter for feeding into the caravan weight itself. But also I think I like the sky windows you've got in the roof section as well. Just gives out a little bit of light when you want that privacy from the inside. We've got side panels can be interchangeable, so the 2 sides here can be interchangeable, which enables you to reposition the side door. So rather, for example, having the entrance door at the back of the caravan, by switching this side with the other side, we then move to the side. One of the sides also has a full mesh window in it as well, which is this one here. So you can open it up, have the airflow coming directly through, and you've got your PVC weather tight part when you need to. Doors located on both sides both have mesh as well. So for airflow, you can always have what essentially is a full mesh panel, i.e. window and door, and then a door on the other side as well, so that works really well. You have got the ability on the Grande to actually extend it, so you can do this in multiple ways. You either go down the more traditional route of having an annex, so removing the side panel, putting an annex on, and again that can go either side. So one annex will fit either side. There's a range of versions of that, from a tall annex or to a standard annex which is a little bit deeper. Saying that, you do have an additional zip located on here. Now this actually allows you then to take what they call an extension, which is more kind of like a room orientated. So it's a whole big on room, about 1.8 meters wide, and it goes the full depth of the Grande as well. So you get a full 3 meters depth, whereas admittedly when you go for the annex, it's only going to be about 2 meters there or thereabouts to sort of extra space. So for me, I personally see like that Grande sort of extension, it's almost like a wet area. So you kind of come into this section here, so you wouldn't have to go into the main body. You dry the dog off, put your bikes, storage, that sort of things, or shoes, and then you enter your lovely clean carpeted section. So that's kind of how I see it working. Now they are left and right-handed, so you have to decide whether you want it sort of towards the back of the caravan or directly towards the hitch. My preference is always left-handed, i.e. towards the hitch, because I'm thinking you've got to utilise the space you've got at the front of it. So for me that works well, and you don't have to use it every time. It's a great extra space you can put onto the awning itself without having to go to a full-length awning. Helps keep the overall weight down, because you essentially are almost building a separate awning on the awning, one separate bag, and it gives you a little bit more versatility as well. So again, I think that's a really nice option. We've also got little clips located on the front of the awning here. These are actually for additional windbreaks. You can obviously go and add on to it. So create your little compound, or, you know, again, somewhere for the dogs not to escape. So you can circle that around quite nice and neatly. Other things to bear in mind is the fact that there is a zip located on the side of the awning itself. Now, this is called the Grande 390S. The S refers to basically the sort of a small size. They also do an M, which is a medium. Now, for every single caravan pretty much on the market going there or thereabouts, you've got to be an S. The M basically refers to it being a taller height that it fits, more designed for motorhomes. So your S will basically fit from 235 to 265, and your M's 265 to 295 in terms of the overall height. Like I said, the width is always the same, 390. You also got to bear in mind there's a little bit of wings here as well. Because this is designed to fit a motorhome, you have dual beading. So there's a smaller beading, i.e. 5mm, and a larger beading 7mm as well. So 7mm is designed for your caravan. Your 5 is then for your fiamma awnings, or any sort of wind-up cassette awnings will fit on the underside of that. Now, there is a sort of difference in terms of the height, the way it fits. Now, what we have got here is a zip located on the side. This enables it, like a suitcase, almost to expand. So with the zip closed, we have the awning at 235 to 250. And then when you're on that sort of top end bracket, mainly for a motorhome, which is only every time you really open it, is then that will then, there's a zip on the inside, outside, expand up. So then it will fit with the zip open 250 to 265. So that's a really nice option. Again, just gives you flexibility, but it folds away nice and neatly. So really, you wouldn't necessarily see it from the outside. So again, they've done a little bit of tweak work for this. And that's one of the things that's not only changed about the Grande moving into this new Tour fabric is A, the material. The windows have got a bit more curvature to them. Some new updates. We've also got, there's a little bit of work done on that baffler zips. So it's a little bit neater and a little bit more discreet. The other thing to mention actually as well is there was always a second zip on the front panels. With these, what we do is now the zip is actually in front of the front mesh panels. So, front of the main panel. So the idea is you can have a mesh panel in front of your main panel. So if you want to create a little veranda with your main panel, you haven't suddenly got to unzip your mesh to get to it. So the main point is mesh can go on the outside, you can fold the panel back, have the airflow directly through, and then you've got little veranda pulls you can basically insert into there, and that sits and works really nicely. In fact, let's kind of bring the camera around and go inside the actual Grande and talk through a load more features that it has to offer. So now inside the awning, I think the first thing you can obviously appreciate is that extra depth. That 3 meter deep really does help. So, for example, when you have things like your tables and chairs up close to the front, you've got that ample amount of space. You can come out your caravan and you're not sort of directly on top of it. So, great little place for your step. Joys also being the porch, you can sort of manipulate how far along the caravan it goes. As long as you've got that sort of 390 width, then you're sort of golden in that sense. So, in terms of the inflating point, obviously the main central inflation point is located down here. The air comes up and distributes itself through these additional taps. So all of the actual system inflates from one single point, but you can isolate off everything individually. So you can turn it on either end. It means that tube is then separate to the rest of the system. So God forbid you had an issue, you can simply undo the fittings, patch it, repair it, or replace it completely if you need be. With the tubes, you actually got a 2-year warranty as standard with Dometic, and then it's a 12-month warranty on the workmanship, i.e. the nuts, bolts, how it's put together. So again, that's generally quite decent. And one thing I will say is, as a whole, as an independent kind of retailer, Dometic do kind of have the best tubes on the market. I struggle to think of another brand that, for the level of awnings that we sell, to the amount of issues we get, I definitely would say they are, in my opinion, probably the best. So if one of those things are not broke, don't try to fix it. We also see now we've got this crystal clear windows, great sort of visibility in there, but we want to get the privacy. We've got a traditional style curtains. Now, one of, again, bigger the criticisms of the Pro model in the past was its shower-like curtains, and they weren't particularly, well, they're quite like that, just like a shower-like curtain. So we've got a much more nice, softer fabric now, and also the runners are a little bit different. So we've still got a little retaining point here, and we can then obviously put that across, position it as we need to. There's a little webbing taping that just keeps that panel nice and close to the side of it, just kind of make it all look really nicely, and again gives that more homely kind of feel. The little runners are actually easier to put on and off as well, so you can just literally, it's almost like a little runner that's on a slider, like a hook, and you just basically put that directly in. That's what basically runs it itself. So very easy to put on, and then you can just pop that nice and neatly away when you wanted to. You've got basically 4 zip pullers on each individual panel, so you can actually bring that back, open it down and flop that over, and then you've got like a little veranda. So in the corners there's little stays here. That's for a veranda pole to go in, helps to brace it, but more importantly it takes that kind of panel as it pops over. There's a range of obviously breathable flooring that you can get that's obviously tailor-made kind of for the Grande, so that's always kindly recommended. And always I sort of recommend, if you are looking at something like this, there is what I call like the bread and butter items that's always worth going for. So firstly would be the storm tie-downs. That would be an absolute must for me. A carpet's always great if you haven't already got one, preferably something that's breathable. You get a draft skirt as standard included with the actual awning itself, but a wheel arch cover is always a good way of looking at it. Be it a single axle or twin axle, and more importantly, that's how you seal it against the vehicle. So what you're looking really for is some upright poles that basically fit in here. It presses this foam pad that's at the back here directly against the caravan to minimise the draft. You have got all the pre-punched holes here, and they are to take sort of Dometic's own limpets. They help to seal it, and for me, I would always recommend doing it in conjunction with it. If you're going for limpets or poles, I would always recommend poles first, and then limpets just help to give that extra bit of seal. But really nice and simple. Your webbing straps located at the bottom again, just to kind of allow you a bit of adjustment and get a bit more tension directly into it as well. I think for the height-wise, it's pretty decent inside of here. I mean, I'm 6'2", stand up pretty much anywhere inside of here. Admittedly, when I get to the sort of front side here, I would have to dip to get out the front panel, but more than likely you have your furniture and that sort of stuff closest to that front section, and you can utilise the doors on the outside as well. You have got the options of the accessory track, which is like a little beading that's located on top here. Helps to put organisers and that sort of stuff through, and there are a clip point here, so you can have a hanging rail going nice and neatly. Saber lights, lighting and that sort of stuff in as well. Little Velcro lobs located there, just take a little saber light and you can run off sort of, I would have 2 really, a starter and an add-on, and it would light this section. You can go positioned either at the front here or directly at the top. So other things to mention, obviously you've got a nice extended skirt on the side just to really help get the draft. That helps to tuck it underneath the carpet to kind of give that ultimate amount of seal. And in terms of, again, this tube diameter, it's slightly a decent sized chunky tube, just to real kind of beef it up and make it a little bit nicer. And those little sky windows there, I think, really help. And even with like the valves, for example, even if you're not best sort of like you've got arthritis or something, they're quite nice and chunky, very easy to turn, and the fittings are no different to like a garden hose. So if you did have to repair it for any reason, then you know it's something that's quite capable of doing. And again, the after sales generally tends to be fairly decent with Dometic as well. Not that we honestly probably get too many problems. It's definitely one of the best brands we kind of deal with in that side of things. But in fact, let's bring the camera in and get a bit more up close and personal with some of these little features as well. So obviously we've got it located here. You can see, I'll say that actually having that kind of lighter fabric kind of makes it a bit nicer and light inside of here. You haven't got to worry too much. We've got this mesh panel, so that sort of the whole window is mesh, and there's a side door. So it has gone for a lighter colour on the whole. You've still got this, like I said, dual pitch roof, so you can see it helps the internal height. But when you come to this kind of front section here, you can probably see the isolation taps. So again, much bigger, nice and chunky, can easily isolate, and it's just the little tap points are very easy to use. The extra bit of plastic there doesn't really matter. Like I said, they are generally quite decent. We've also got the curtains, so again, lugs on, they're just sort of little sliders, so you can just easily pop that on when you need to. It helps if you've got obviously a second pair of hands, rather than trying to do it like I'm doing it. Yep, I'll come back to that. We've also got points here for cables, which you can run quite nicely. The little tabs there is for a roof line, so you can have an optional roof liner that will go into the roof section. That's not actually changed, it's the same model, fits last year's as it does this model going forward. And then those little Velcro tabs as previously mentioned, so we've got them located directly in the roof space here, and it can run nice and neatly through it. And then that's the accessory track that's built on there. So you can have hanging points going directly down, or we've got little storm points there to work it around. And that's that internal zip on the baffle, so that's what you'd open on the inside and out to obviously extend it and get a bigger space. And then this also velcros up and it actually goes upwards as well. Little velcro tabs, ties just to keep the pole nice and neatly. And there's 2 slots here as well. So there's 2 slots for the pole. Basically it's designed if you're going into a wind out, you'd kind of use the outer one, whereas you go into the body on its own, go into the inner, just because it will allow it to press on the underside of the wind outs, and also this top part is on Velcro, so you can create it like a little baffle for any additional, if you've got to take the gap up, if your wind out's not completely flush. But you've got little apex ventilation points at the top there as well. So again, that really helps to kind of keep airflow. That's one thing that's definitely probably, because it's a non-breathable material, you find that you do get condensation in this. There's no way really around it. It's just kind of how you're going to utilize that and manage it. And that's where it's airflow. So maximizing that sort of side mesh door and panel works wisely. But again, you can see that kind of dual pitch roof to help with the internal height. But I think I just like the way it sits. Fits snugly against the side of the caravan. Got that roof section. There's also an additional zip that's, you can see actually, that's the size zip we talked about for the extra extension. And there's also, you should have the ability to have a zip on top. So there are some solar shades and things like that you can add on to it. But no, I think on the whole, it's some nice improvements. It's nice to see something a little bit, I suppose the Pro fabric's not changed in many years. So having something like this just makes it a bit more lighter. They've still kind of kept obviously the DNA and what probably some of the best parts. Go get it there. Go get it. Go get it. They keep the still main part of the DNA part of the awning itself, and you've got the build, the quality, just with that updated fabric, just make it a little bit sharper. I suppose the only type thing is maybe it's a little bit on the lighter side. So what you find is maybe when you are setting out, I would recommend putting the carpet down first, just then it gives you a kind of a cleanish base. Because pretty with a light fabric, if you're dragging it, it's not so much on hard standing, but on grass, you're more inclined to kind of get a little bit of mud here and there. But it's built well, sits really nicely, easy to pitch. So I think there's a lot of tick boxes really. It's something we'll look at, certainly have it on our display in our sort of camping shop. I believe there's also some last year's models floating around, probably at reduced prices as well. So that's always not a bad thing to have a look at. But in all, I think the improvements have been great. I think, again, everything's kind of just ticking its boxes, and a lot of, as I said previously, sort of those probably issues or concerns that probably customers had in the past, I think they've done a really good job in terms of getting a bit more of a more technical fabric, but still keeping the DNA of the Grande and what we love about it. So for more information, you can always check the link below this video, take you straight through the website. We've got more information on things like pack sizes, floor dimensions, individual feature specifications as well. There's also the pitching video we've done on the product as well. But feel free to let us know what you think in the comments box below. It's great to have feedback from you guys as well. But in all, that is our video review on the brand new Dometic Grande Air Tour 390S or M.